Well, hello, guys. Happy Monday. I'm going to be starting to stream at my regular 5 o'clock hour again moving forward. I've taken a little bit of a break over the past several weeks because, well, I needed an effing break. I needed a break. It was a self care measure, but I have gotten so much accomplished in these couple of weeks, to include regaining some semblance of my mental health, to include focusing on projects that I have wanted to do for a really long time anyway, to include actually feeling like a normal human being and not like I'm living in crazy town insanity like I've been living in for a while. And part of the reason that I'm feeling a lot better is what we are going to do today on the stream. And this is going to be a regular feature on the show. Now, I'm still going to be pursuing the Disenraged series. I'm still going to be I'm going to be bringing back the West Wing stuff. I haven't been feeling it lately. I'm going to be doing some other stuff too, but what we're going to do today is going to become a core component of one of the things I'm going to do live on this channel on a regular basis. And what we're going to do today is we're going to do some investigation. We are going to, and I have to thank Joshua for this. This looking into the schools in Portland, Oregon was completely Joshua's idea. We just had our regular weekly call earlier today, and Joshua, this is how well I have trained Joshua. He said to me, he's like, Carlin, wouldn't the schools in Seattle and Portland be more crazy than like every other school? And I was like, Joshua, that is a really good idea. I hadn't actually thought about that. And so today we are going to be doing a live investigation into the equity programs in the public schools in Portland, Oregon. I truly have no idea what we're going to find, but I'm going to bet that there's going to be some crazy stuff that we are going to find. Now, live investigation is part of what I'm going to be doing with the Unwoke Army. If you haven't heard yet, I have a volunteer force of people that are concerned about the woke cultural revolution that we are experiencing in this country, and they want to do something about it. And so I have the Unwoke Army. Our initial project was several months ago. We did the Burlington Project where we exposed grooming in the Burlington School District. We're going to be continuing with that, but there are going to be, if you head over to, actually, let me get a fancy smanchy banner. There we go. If you head over to unwokearmy.com, you can actually see this website that we're looking at right now. There are going to be 4 core projects within the Unwoke Army. There's going to be the Burlington Project. There's going to be, which is going to be looking at Vermont and specifically Burlington, Vermont, as what I think is going to be the first major city, the first American city built entirely on equity. We're going to be doing a lot more stuff around Burlington and the crazy stuff that's going on in Vermont in general. If you live in Vermont, I'm sorry, your state is basically communist at this point. You might not be feeling it yet, but your entire effing government, from city government to the schools to getting into the state house in Montpelier, you guys are basically communist at this point, and I don't know if it can be saved. I don't think it can be saved, but I'm going to document it as kind of a warning story, a warning indicator of what happens when you build an entire society based on equity. I think it's actually going to be fascinating. That's going to be the Burlington Project. We have got Groomergate. Groomergate is where we are going to be infiltrating online communities where trans children are. We've been doing this for a little minute now. There have been a couple of us that have started doing this. I am one of the people who's doing this, and it's effing crazy. Not ready to talk about it yet. Working through some feelings on that, but it is crazy, guys. Really is. We're going to be doing Spy Stream, which is kind of a throwback on the channel. We're going to be infiltrating woke trainings and streaming them live on the channel. I'm committed to doing that. We're starting to gather a list together of possible trainings to infiltrate. I might actually have one tomorrow morning. I'm not sure I'm going to do it yet because I'm not sure exactly how they're going to be streaming it yet, but I might have one tomorrow and we're going to see about that. But what we're going to talk about today is Schools Exposed. Schools Exposed is a crowdsourced journalism project where we are going to be investigating what different school districts are doing and exposing them based purely on publicly available information. Now, if you missed it, actually, let me get this up in a different window so I don't accidentally show you something I shouldn't. If you missed it, I actually had another pretty big success last week. In that, and I talked about this in a stream on Saturday. I actually exposed the school district in Exeter, New Hampshire, for breaking the state's anti-CRT laws, and I did that entirely based on publicly available information on the school's website, on their contractor's website. And this, as you can see, is part of the Schools Exposed project that we're going to be pursuing with the Unwoke Army. So if you like this sort of stuff, and you want to do this type of investigation, the very best thing for you to do is to head over to unwokearmy.com and sign up for this here webinar that I am doing on Wednesday. It is on Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. If that time does not work for you, but you're interested, sign up anyway, because what's going to happen is you're going to get a recording as soon as it's done, and I'm going to need you to watch that. If you want to be a part of the Unwoke Army, you have got to watch this webinar that I'm doing on Wednesday, either live or you watch a replay, because basically what I'm going to be doing is laying out my vision for the Unwoke Army, talking about the different projects, talking about the structure, talking about this type of support you can expect, talking about the type of support that you can expect, because what I'm trying to do is build a decentralized army where I'm not the general of this army. There is no general of this army. We are all generals of this army. And while I'm happy to provide structure and support where I can, I'm really looking for everyone to be self-motivated and empowered as a part of this project. And I think that that just needs to be explained to people going into it, because some people require more structure than others, and that's totally fine. But you just have to be aware going into it what I'm willing to do and what I'm not willing to do, because there's only so much structure I can provide. What I'm really looking for is a group of self-motivated people who believe that this is important and understand what's required to actually fight back against it. So if you want more information about the Unwoke Army, join us for that webinar on Wednesday. I think it's going to be really great, and you will learn how you can join us. The other thing you can do while you're on the website is help us collect data to expose the schools. So right under the webinar registration, you're going to see this banner, help us collect data to expose the schools. Pretty self-explanatory. What I need you to do is click on this here button, and it'll take a second to load because sometimes it does. And what you're going to get brought to is this page where we are asking you to submit information about the school in your town, to include the website URL for the school, the website for the diversity and equity office at the school, any YouTube pages they have, any other information, and your email address if you want to, but you don't have to. You can submit the information completely anonymously. Click on one of these here black buttons, and it's going to take you to a bright red survey where you can input all of this information. Every question is optional, so you don't actually have to tell us the information. But I don't know why you're submitting a form if you aren't going to tell us the information. But it just goes really quickly through it, and that's all it is. And we're collecting that information to be able to investigate the school. So particularly if you are concerned about what might be going on in your school, this is something you're going to want to fill out, because we already have a list of over 110 now, I think, schools that parents have submitted just in the last week. And we are going to be doing investigations on these schools, just like we're going to do today with Portland. This is like a group activity, guys. What I want to do with the Unwoke Army is I want to make fighting back against woke insanity fun. I know that sounds bizarre because this stuff is crazy, but we have, like, if we're gonna fight back against it anyway, do you want to be miserable? Or do you want to have fun and have it be like a club and a sport and something that you do like for kicks that makes you feel good instead of making you feel bad? The better we can make fighting back against this insanity feel, the more people we're going to be able to activate to do it. And so I'm committed with this to making this a fun process, something people want to be involved in, something people want to volunteer for. I've got an amazing group of people in the Unwoke Army. And if you guys join us, I know you're going to find that, and it's going to be great. Now, one of the things you can do to help us along in this is, of course, supporting my work. There are a bunch of, and by the way, when you guys support me, whether you support me on Patreon or Locals or with a subscription to my Substack, or I take crypto, it's in the description somewhere. I needed to add it to this website too. When you support me and make a donation or sign up for a membership on like Locals or something, I want you guys to know that a not insignificant amount of money that you guys donate to me ends up getting invested back into things like this. So that webinar that I'm doing on Wednesday, that I've also done, other events with other opinion leaders like Nicole Solis, Gabrielle Clark, Paul Rossi. We've got some great webinars that I'm planning. That webinar platform is not free. I have to pay for that. I have to pay for promotion for that. I have to pay for marketing for that. I have to pay to get eyes on it, to get make sure we're getting a good group of people there. So all that comes from the donations of support that you give me. There are several ways you can donate. You can become a supporter on Patreon. There are lots of exclusive perks that you can get as a result of doing that, to include t-shirts and stickers and shout outs and I'll plug your website or your podcast or what have you. Things like that. You can get those all on Patreon right now. You can also join Locals. Locals is of course my one of my main communities that I've been really working on building for the past couple of years. Locals you can join for free at kb.locals.com. But if you want to unlock all of the perks of Locals, including the Zoom call that we're going to start at 7 o'clock tonight, then you're going to have to go over to kb.locals.com/support and sign up as a supporter for $5 a month, $50 a year. Make a one-time gift. You can give more if you want to, but you don't have to. And all of those things are going to unlock all of the features of Locals, including commenting and posting and getting invited to our Zoom calls and getting invited to our book clubs and all of that good stuff. I've got a wonderful community on Locals. They have kept me sane and I'm so appreciative of them. And if you want to join us, we are having a private unrecorded Zoom call at 7 p.m. tonight. We have them every Monday. Monday Zoom calls are called Marathon Mondays because they tend to go on a long ass time. It's not unusual for us to be on Zoom together for 5 hours on Monday. And so if you would like to join us and meet some other people in the community, kb.locals.com/support, and you can sign up for that. You can also just head over to activelyunwoke.com/support, and that link will be there for you. But you can also support me by having a subscription to one of my Substacks, whether that be Actively Unwoke, which is the Substack that I posted about the Exeter Regional School District breaking the law in New Hampshire, or I have another Substack called the Red Pill Diaries. You can get a subscription to both, and then just go and let me see. Oh, it says I'm already subscribed, but oh God. We don't need to show you that. I don't know if there's any private information on that page, but we definitely don't need to show you that. But basically, if you sign up, you can get everything for free or you can support it financially. And again, I do invest the financial support right back into what we're doing to build out the Unwoke Army and all that good stuff. And so I really, really appreciate it. All right, let me get my little ticker up just so we can beat that dead horse of joining the Unwoke Army. And let's jump into what I want to do today, because what I want to do today is investigate equity in the Portland, Oregon school district. I have absolutely no idea what we're going to find. Basically, I'm going to do a live demonstration of the process that I go through when I'm looking into a school district. Okay. So this is something that anyone can do. And guys, I'm developing a project. I'm actually really excited about this project. I'm going to teach 10,000 parents to do investigations just like this. And more information on that is coming soon. And I'm really excited about it. But I want to walk you through the process that I use, because I really think it's important that everyone know that most of the information that you need about what is going on in the public schools in your town is going to be publicly available on their website. This is something that I've learned over now doing many of these investigations into the school district. They're almost always doing this stuff right out in the open on their website, on their social media, on their teachers' social media, on their contractors' social media, and literally all you need to do is look for it. But they oftentimes don't make it easy for you. Oh, look at that. They're all wearing masks still. Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? But anyway, you just need to know where to look for it. And the schools, I think, I don't know if they purposefully try to make this confusing or if it's just one of those things that it's like, it's incompetence in how they build out their websites, so it becomes very confusing. But I want to show you guys the process that I use, and we can use this as a group activity. You guys can all participate in this as well. Let me put the website URL into the chat that we're going to be investigating today. Now, this is the Portland Public Schools. So there are going to be multiple schools within like this particular school district. And what I want to look for is, how is the Portland schools, how are they doing equity in their schools? And so you can feel free to play along and investigate this with us if you would like to. I've put the link in the chat on YouTube, Odyssey, Rockfin, and Rumble. I do stream on all those platforms. I'm probably going to be cutting out the Rumble stream pretty soon just because I don't think people are using it. But if you want me to keep streaming on Rumble, you need to let me know. Otherwise, I'm not going to do it anymore, and I'm just going to upload the videos later. But you guys can let me know how you feel about that. But so what I want to start out doing is I want to so the first thing that I always do when I'm investigating a school, we could go to department. We could go to department and get a long list of their departments. But what I actually want to do is just go right over here to the search bar, and I want to search for equity. Now, as a reminder, equity does not mean equality. Equality is about equality of opportunity. It's about everyone shows up and the best person gets the job, or what have you. Equity is about everyone gets the job, and then we readjust the standards for the job to the most mediocre possible standard. So anytime a school has an equity office, where anytime you hear the word equity, you need to think critical race theory, you need to think anti-racism, you need to think Marxism, because it is. Equity is a Marxist concept. From each according to their ability, to each according to their need. That's a Marxist concept. And so we want to use the term equity as interchangeable for our purposes as critical race theory, anti-racism, even getting into social emotional learning. They all have different definitions, but for our purposes, for an initial investigation, we are going to treat them all like they are the same, because these concepts overlap with each other enough that when you're looking for information, because our goal here, this is not an academic exercise. This is not about having the most scholarly definition. This is not about creating a fucking infographic or whatever Peter Boghossian does. This is about actually finding out what the schools are actually teaching. So for our intents and purposes, we're considering them the same because our only goal is to find the information that we're looking for. So we're going to do a search for equity. Bing. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Look at all the stuff. Now, I did actually know this was going to come up because I did a quick search for equity before we jumped on the stream today. Look at this search for equity on the Portland Public Schools page. Racial Equity and Social Justice Department, Racial Equity and Social Justice Lens, leading with racial equity and social justice, racial education equity policy, draft racial equity and social justice plan for 2018 to 2019, which tells us that they have been doing equity in Portland for at least several years now. Yeah, Bob points out 7,390 hits. Look at how many search results we have for equity on the Portland Public Schools website. And on and on and on. So we've got a lot of stuff to go through, guys. Lot of stuff to go through. So where we're going to start is right here. And this is as far as I got when I started looking at this stuff earlier. So there's a lot of things that we need to sort through on this page. One of the first things I want you to notice is they have an entire equity staff with their email addresses public. Huh. It's kind of like state email addresses or public information, Twitter. By the way, Joshua is pretty sure I'm going to get my Twitter account back. And we both anticipate that heads are going to when that happens. And it's going to be fucking beautiful. But looks like they've got a bunch of contacts. Now, one of the things we've learned, or that I've learned when we're investigating schools, is that you've got to keep an eye on the actual players involved. So what I would do, if I was investigating the Portland City Schools, what I would do is I would start to make a spreadsheet with each of these people listed in it, because these are their equity people. Okay. And so one of the things that you're going to want to do, if I was a parent in the Portland Public School District, I would investigate the social media of every single one of those contacts. I would look into their personal social media. I want to know what they're posting on Instagram. I want to know what they're posting on Twitter. I want to know what they're posting on TikTok. I want to know what they're posting on Facebook. And that's for their personal accounts, because that's going to tell you who these people are and what they believe. And sometimes it takes a little digging to find their personal accounts, but trust me, it is completely worth it when you do. Now, we're not going to do that on the call today, because that by itself would take a minute to be able to do that. But no, we're not going to post those email addresses on Twitter just now, because even though they're public information, Twitter apparently likes to ban my fucking accounts for posting publicly available information. So we're going to hold back right now until I get my main account restored. Jim, fun fact, they're also spending over $30,000 per student and the education is crap. Also, the governor of Oregon has suspended high school graduation requirements. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, there's a whole metric ton of insanity that we can look into in the port. Like this little investigative thing could conceivably be a several days long project or weeks long. Who knows? We might be here for a while. So we already know that they have a lot of equity people and they have people like look at some of these titles. Senior advisor on racial equity and social justice. I want to know what that person does. This person is a racial and equity and social justice confidential executive assistant. Oh, look, bot's already doing investigation. Well done, bot. Excellent. Excellent. We've got several project managers, several program managers. So, what a project manager or program manager is these people are probably the ones liaising with the different schools in Portland. So, there are several people that are taking what this equity office is doing at a district level and bringing that right into the classroom where the students are in Portland. We've already found one on social media. Awesome. Well done, bot. Now let us know if there's anything crazy there. So we know they have a big staff. That's always going to be if they have multiple equity people, that's going to be an indicator that there's a lot of fucked up shit going on. Okay? Because why would they need that many staff members if they didn't have messed up stuff going on? So let's just take a gander around this website. We've got racial equity and social justice lens, we've got their equity policy, we've got their social justice framework and plan. I'm interested in well, let's just take these one by one actually. They're doing professional develop. Oh shit. We're just going to open all of these. Summer safety and enrichment. What the fuck is that? Childcare, son, response to hate speech. Naming and defining places. Wow. There's so much stuff I want to look at here. Let's look at this. Naming and defining places. The Portland Public Schools plan to re-examine names of so they're renaming buildings, essentially. They're establishing entire committees to rename buildings. All right, well that's not that interesting. It could be interesting, but not so much interesting right now. So Stephanie's asking a great question. What do you do with the info about their personal social media when you first start investigating all of this? And this is true of every piece of information you find. With schools like Portland, what it's going to be like when you first start investigating it is it's going to be like a fire hose of information. And so the thing that we're most concerned about when we first start investigating is we want to get some sort of indicator. Is there crazy fucked up shit going on here? Yes. Okay. And then we start just categorizing information. So we might make a spreadsheet of the names of people involved. We might have a list of policy documents, things like that. But you're basically just categorizing information as best you can at the very beginning. So for right now, for their personal social media stuff, you don't really want to worry about it at all. But it's something that like if we find that so what we might find is that like so Danny is the head of the racial and social justice like equity program in the Portland Public Schools. If Danny is posting crazy trans stuff all over her social media, I want to know about that. If Danny is posting Black Lives Matters fists all over her social media, I want to know that. Is Danny posting about is Danny encouraging Antifa activity in Portland? I want to know about that. Because what they're doing in their personal social media is going to reflect what they're bringing in to their job. So it's just a matter of understanding and categorizing it for right this second. I don't know what to do with any of this information yet because I haven't looked at it. So we want to get a good general overview. But that's a great question, Stephanie, and I appreciate that. All right, response to hate speech. Let's read their hate speech statement. PPS is committed to realizing our country's vision that a graduate of Portland Public Schools will be a compassionate, critical thinker, able to collaborate and solve problems, and be able to and be prepared to lead a more socially just world. So we already know that Portland schools are training kids to be activists. Prepared to lead a more socially just world. That means they're training activists. Where's my highlighter? Bing. Why isn't my highlighter? Oh, there it is. It did work. Okay. Our priority is to provide welcoming, safe, inclusive schools where every child can learn, grow, and reach their potential. Several schools experience incidents and demonstrations of hate speech and threaten our core values of racial equity and social justice. Okay, I want to know how they're defining hate speech. A cross-functional team with membership from several departments and the input, blah 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 blah. They came up with a hate speech policy, non-discrimination policy. Oh, confronting white nationalism in schools. Great. All right. I don't see anything crazy on this page just yet, so we're going to move on. So, the reason I'm going so quickly is because A, I only have a couple hours that I can stream here, but B, when you're doing an initial overview on a school that you think might be doing a lot of crazy shit, it's like triage. So, what we're doing right now is just doing a quick overview and we're triaging. If something doesn't look uber crazy right now, I'm going to quickly move on to the next thing. And actually, I'm going to go back over and I'm going to start doing it this way. Okay. What does it mean to have a racial equity and social justice lens? Oh, God. All right. Let me see. Yes, I would like to download the document. Guys, always download everything. Download every single thing that you can possibly download. Let me see if I can make this bigger for everyone while still being able to see it myself. Okay. Portland Public Schools is committed to academic excellence and personal success for all students. Central to that commitment is support of racial equity and social justice. So you can see this was updated recently, relatively recently. Will my highlighter work on here? No. Oh well. In May 2019, Portland Public Schools adopted our community-informed vision, Portland Public Schools Reimagined. Portland Public Schools is committed to preparing students to lead change and improve our world for the district. We aim to become by 2030. Do you think it's any coincidence that they just happened to have 2030 as their goal? I don't. Vision, core values, graduate portrait. In order to advance towards the vision and achieve the 3-year board goals, Portland Public Schools examined its current state to develop a theory of action for change to identify key priorities. We utilize this theory of action to provide focus and to center our decision making on experiences of students of color. Our theory of action explicitly calls out the pernicious institutional and cultural racism embedded in our system and prompts us to take action that disrupt the barriers that hinder us to reaching our goals. If we braid racial equity and social justice strategy into our instructional core, ding, 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 ding. Portland Public Schools is teaching equity and social justice as part of their instructional core. They're teaching it in the classroom. And we know that because they told us they were doing that in their strategic plan theory of action. We are building these into our instructional core, work with our students, teachers, and content, and build our organizational culture and capacity to create a strong foundation for every student. Then we will reimagine Portland Public Schools to ensure every student, especially our Black and Native American students who experience the greatest barriers, that's kind of racist, realize the vision of a graduate portrait. In 2011, this shit's been going on in the Portland schools for over 10 years. We saw that in Burlington too. Burlington has reports for equity in the school district going back 10 years. So Portland has literally been doing this stuff since 2011. Let that thing sink in. That was 4 years before the crazy nonsense at Yale started. That was what? 7 years before Evergreen, 6 years before Evergreen, 7 years before Evergreen. So they've been doing this a long time. It is entirely possible. I actually wonder if this is true. This could be something we could ask Benjamin Boyce about. It is entirely possible that a graduate from Portland Public Schools was involved in all of the nonsense at Evergreen State College. Wrap your head around that. In 2011, Portland Public Schools adopted a racial educational equity policy that called out harmful disparities in our schools and identified the district's role in eliminating them. Our aim is to elevate Portland Public Schools' racial equity and social justice practices to a comprehensive, defined framework with clear, system wide equity and social justice actions and measurable results. Let's see. We're going to skip through this. Targeted universalism. What does that mean? At Portland Public Schools, we utilize the approach of targeted universalism because we recognize that resource conversations can be polarizing and that discourse can. So, okay, it's talking about like resource allocation. We believe the district should adopt a student centered, racial equity, and social justice focused lens in all decisions. In all decisions. They are infusing racial equity and social justice into every single decision that they make. We believe we are uniquely positioned to affect change broadly across our community because of our role in educating and caring for close to 50,000 Portland students every day. We believe in setting measurable and audacious goals. Embedded in each goal is the provision of the culturally relevant and responsive pedagogy. Ding, 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 ding. Culturally relevant and responsive pedagogy is basically it's code word for critical race theory. They sometimes use them interchangeably. Okay. So anytime you see culturally relevant or responsive pedagogy, you need to think critical race theory, you need to think anti-racism, you need to think Marxism. They're all, for our purposes right now, they're the same. With a clearly defined racial equity and social justice based practices and curriculum, they're telling you clearly that they have integrated all of this into the curriculum. And that's what we're looking for when we're investigating the schools. How much of this is just nonsense and how much of it is trickled down into actually invading the curriculum in the schools. Bot has a social media update. Danny's profile is pretty boring, very woke though, but she follows a lot of people at the top of the school system, which I will go through their Twitter profiles as I can. So Bot is actually giving us a really good strategy to take, which is once you find one person in the school district and their social media, that's going to lead you to other people in the school district and their social media. And so we want to make sure we're looking into those social media accounts as well, because what if one of the principals in the Portland Public School District is posting crazy TikTok shit all over their Twitter? We want to know that. We don't know what we're going to do with it yet, but we want to know it because we can expose that in any number of ways. We believe in accountability in all areas of school and student performance, including the areas of racial equity and social justice. What? They're having their staff fill out a form? Okay. The Portland Public Schools racial equity and social justice lens. So every time we see RESJ, that's racial equity and social justice. What they do is a lot of schools do this where they will use these acronyms that people don't understand. They will use it all throughout their website. They will use it in all their documents, and that's meant to confuse people about what they're looking at. Is a critical tool which will be applied to our internal systems, processes, resources, and programs to create increased opportunities for all students by evaluating burdens, benefits, and outcomes to underserved communities. Though consistent with the utilization of the racial equity and social justice lens, we intend to strengthen our blah, 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 whatever. What is this form that staff have to fill out? Oh, I can't see that. That would be something that we would need to FOIA. That's all right. Let's see. These are just some of the things that they're measuring. Oh, how are they defining? Okay, so this is going to be important. How are they claiming that they define equity. Equity, the state, quality, or ideal of being just, impartial, and fair. The concept of equity is synonymous with fairness and justice. That's bullshit. It is not synonymous with fairness and justice at all. It is helpful to think of equity as not simply a desired state or lofty value. To be achieved and sustained, equity needs to be thought of as a structural concept. You know what's funny about this? They didn't define it. Not really. What does it mean to practice equity? Oh, equity is just about being ideal, impartial, or fair. That's not what equity means. They are giving an extremely vague definition of equity to try to confuse people about what they're actually doing. That definition means nothing. Educational equity. Educational equity means raising the achievement of all students while one, narrowing the gaps between the lowest and high. See, this is where they're defining equity. Narrowing the gaps between the highest and lowest performing students and eliminating the racial predictability and disproportionality of some student groups occupying the highest and lowest achievement categories. Social justice is defined as the elimination of performative variability between student groups and accelerated achievement for underserved populations. They literally just told their definition of social justice. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. There we go. Their definition for social justice essentially says equality of outcome. Well, that was really helpful. Okay. Okay. Is this the same document? What is this? Oh, check this out. Racial equity and social justice lens protocols. Well, Rachel, we're scraping the surface, I think, today. Who will use the racial equity and social justice lens? Everyone, essentially. Okay, so listen, look at this. Look at this. Superintendents, all of these units are involved in this racial equity bullshit. Superintendents, leadership teams, human resources, finance, even the janitors. Facilities, school modernization, security, transportation, information technology, nutrition. Look at this. Most of them have already completed student. Holy shit. Most of the different offices within the Portland Public Schools have already completed their racial equity and social justice plans, I guess. So that's nice. That's good to know. All right. All right. Let's move on. They adopted their racial equity policy in 2011. We already know that, so they've been doing this for a really long time. Leading with racial equity and social justice are collective plan and framework. So I'm already wondering, what's on their YouTube channel? Hang on. I just want to take a quick look at Portland Public Schools YouTube channel real quick. I want to see if there's anything interesting. Working sessions. They post a lot. Okay, so let's go. So when you're on YouTube, there are two different searches on YouTube. One is the top level search, which you can search for anything across YouTube. But what we're interested in this particular case is I want to go to the channel search. So if you want to search something for a channel, you have to go to the magnifying glass on the channel. Okay, so I want to look for equity on this YouTube channel. Oh, bing, 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 bing. Look at all those things popping up for equity on this YouTube channel. Look at all of this. Now I want to see, just for shits and giggles, Portland Public Schools equity. I want to know if their equity office has a YouTube channel. Portland Public Schools for Professionals. What does this mean? Whenever you start looking at YouTube channels for the public school districts, you have to anticipate that they're going to have multiple YouTube channels. Even if those YouTube channels don't have a lot of views or subscribers, I don't care. That doesn't matter. The numbers are not what we care about. They're going to have a YouTube channel for the main school. We've just found they have a YouTube channel. Happy Women's Month. Okay, so this is probably going to be, I'm going to bet you this is going to be, if it is that, oh, this might not be Portland Public Schools. Okay, this might be something else. Okay. Nope, not Portland Public Schools. This is why we have to double check. That wasn't for Portland Public Schools. That was for something else. Now I feel a little bit bad, but not really. Look at this. Portland Public Schools staffing and racial equity for 2013 through 2014. I still do want to find so oftentimes the equity offices within the school districts will actually have a separate YouTube channel. So we always have to look for that, because one of the things that we found is, like, if the school district has a separate YouTube channel just for their equity office, you're going to find crazy stuff on that channel. And it might only have like 3 or 4 subscribers and their videos don't get any views, so no one actually thinks to look at it, but that's where they post the stuff with the kids. Oh, check this out. U.S. Secretary of Education congratulates the Portland Public Schools on advancing. Oh, let's watch this. Oh my God. How long is this? 3 minutes? Copy link. I want to watch this. 5 months ago, the U.S. Department of Education is congratulating the Portland Public Schools on their equity success. Hang on. Chrome tab. Not that. Let's hear what happened here.
Thank you for the introduction, and good evening, everyone. Congratulations as you celebrate 30 years of Parents for Public Schools. 30 years of advocacy, of training.
Never mind, wrong thing.
And collaboration to advance excellence and equity.
So this is something that we need to know. Parents for Public Schools is different than Portland Public Schools. So this is why we look at this stuff. So that's not related to what we're looking at right now, but that's okay. That's all right. Holy shit. Guys, look what I just found. Look what I just found. I've apparently watched this before. I've watched it before. Portland Public Schools Critical Race Theory Coalition Summit, April 22nd, 2021. Apparently I watched it before. So we've got that 1 year ago. I looked into this. I didn't even know it. Had no idea. Let me just see. Oh, okay. I remember this. Okay. I remember the sticky notes one. So what this was, this is crazy. So this was actually a planning meeting. It was boring as hell. It was like one of the most boring meetings I've ever watched before. It was a planning meeting to infuse critical race theory into their facilities planning. So they were actually using CRT to make plans for all their buildings and how they were going to invest in buildings and things like that. I remember that now. All right. Let's look Portland Public Schools equity. Oh, look at this. Equity and teamwork in Portland. District procedures and school-wide MTSS for threat prevention. Okay, that sounds like it could be either crazy or good. Portland Public Schools adopting new curriculum. What's this about? Hang on, I'm just going to read the description. The largest school district in Oregon is adopting both a brand new curriculum and instructional framework across all schools. Let's just, for shits and giggles, watch this video real quick. What is this new curriculum about that they're adopting? This is relatively new. This was a couple months ago. So let's watch what they're doing. Hang on. They can't hear it yet. Browser. All right, let's see what this is.
Portland Public School District officials say it's been decades since they've adopted a district-wide curriculum that puts everyone on the same page.
Equity.
They say a new
Boom.
curriculum is something the district has needed for a long time. But with the 2020 bond that passed, came money to do it.
Our data continue to show that we have persistent gaps among student groups along the lines of race, and those gaps are unacceptable.
The district is taking a three-pronged approach to change that, with brand new curriculum, a new instructional framework for teachers, and training too.
Portland Public Schools is on track.
So they're doing training,
updated, culturally relevant curriculum materials.
That's
in English,
CRT,
language arts, and math at all levels.
English and math.
Of the 2022-2023 school year.
So I just want to so they've already told us a lot of things that would need to be looked into. They told us there's a new curriculum across all schools in Portland. They've told us that they are integrating culturally relevant, which we know is code for critical race theory, into the curriculum. We know that they're doing it in the language arts and in math. So that's in English and math classes. And we know they've already gotten started because they just told us that.
And in all core subjects over the next 3 years.
So what does that look like? When it comes to curriculum, do students of color see themselves represented? And beyond that, for the instructional framework, district leaders say there will be more emphasis on how educators will teach and connect with students, with inclusion at the forefront. The district gave an example of what to expect at the elementary classroom level.
We should see our students having more opportunities to talk with one another as part of their learning, to make sense of the materials, whether it's math or reading. We should see less kind of teacher up front all the time, more students
That's
working
Paulo
with each
Fieri,
other.
that's Marxist.
They say the district-wide instructional framework and curriculum will mean consistency across the board. Before now, teachers have often designed their own curriculum.
We will offer learning sessions this summer to introduce the instructional framework and new curricular materials. And teachers will have more opportunities throughout the year to collaborate with peers across the district who are implementing the same curriculum.
District leaders say the whole process has been robust, with more than 100 teachers, school leaders, community partners, administrators, and students involved in giving feedback. Now, all of this does cost money. The district says the bonds that passed in 2020 designated a little over $53 million to go toward adopting a new curriculum. Christine Pinawanich, KGW News.
$53 million. I hope that all of you who live in Portland are happy with the investment of your $53 million that has been made into the new curriculum in the Portland Public Schools. Oh, Portland Public Schools in Maine. I'm Portland Public Schools. I'm not interested in you yet. Not interested in you yet. Oh, look, they're firing teachers. All right. So I'm not seeing an equity channel, which is good. That's actually a good sign, believe it or not. So that answers that question. Now let's go back to this. Okay. This frame and plans intend to build on the successes of our historic work, blah, blah, blah. Racial equity and social justice framework and plan. We believe in the fundamental right to human dignity and that generating an equitable world requires an educational system that intentionally disrupts and builds leaders to disrupt systems of oppression. So they are flat out telling you that they view it as their job, again, to build activists. They did their first racial equity plan in 2016. They brought on their senior advisor in 2018 for equity. They're basically laying out, see, this is the type of stuff that you can find on school websites, guys. I'm really glad we found this actually, because they are laying out the entire timeline of events for how equity has taken over the Portland School District. If only some conservative journalist had bothered to do fucking journalism so we wouldn't find ourselves here in this position. They have this right on their website. We found it within An hour. I'm not bitter or anything, obviously. They're giving us their entire plan, integrating it into organizational culture. I'm just looking over this document really quickly to see if anything jumps out at me. Oh, was there an equity clause for so we saw that news report that they were firing teachers. You're telling me that there was an equity clause in the union contract, just like in Minnesota, where they're firing white teachers first? Doesn't surprise me. Does not surprise me at all. I'm going to bet you if we looked at the budget for the Portland Public Schools, we're going to find equity all throughout their budget. So, okay, here's something that we need to know about, and I don't know how much we're going to be able to get into this today. Portland Public Schools has maintained and strengthened strategic partnerships with culturally specific organizations who partner with Portland Public Schools to support student success, parent and family engagement, high school graduation, and extended day programs. Who are their contractors? What community partners are they working with? Because most of the time, what you're gonna find when you see any mention of like community partnerships is you're gonna find extreme left wing, like progressive social justice, nonprofits, things like that. Curriculum. Implement the GVC. What is GVC? I must have missed something. Can I search? GVC. It doesn't say. Okay, so they're just using an acronym that we have no idea what it is. Okay. Implement GVC across, if anyone knows what GVC is, let me know, please. Implement GVC across all content, ensuring equitable access and opportunities for all students by implementing a comprehensive, rigorous, and culturally responsive, ding, 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 and sustaining core instructional program, integrating culturally and linguistically sustaining teaching practices. Successfully implement Oregon K-12 ethnic studies standards, ensure completion of the board mandate, and use the racial equity and social justice lens to all new curriculum, adaptations, and materials. Student identity development and affirmation. Okay. What do you guys think? This is a pop quiz for the chat. What do you think when you see a public school document saying student identity development and affirmation? Chat in your answers, please. Mount that like button if you have not already while we're waiting. What does that mean to you? You can kind of see what it says on the screen. Oh, shoot. Yes, yes. Ding, ding, ding. They're transing the children. Queer theory. Yes, it could also be racial identity, Jesse. Absolutely. I'm thinking it's more about trans than it is about race, but gender studies, grooming, something collectivist. Yes. It's about focusing on their immutable characteristics. Let's see. Increase opportunities for students to develop a positive social identity and develop language and historical and cultural knowledge that affirms and accurately describes their multifaceted identity. That is code for intersectionality. Intersectionality. Increase classroom experiences outside of the class, increase experiences outside of the classroom for students to express pride, confidence, and healthy self-esteem without denying the value and dignity of others, recognizing that people's multiple identities, intersectionality, interact and create unique and complete individuals, all while being able to negotiate our personal identity in multiple spaces. Mary says that GVC says guaranteed and viable curriculum. All right. Thank you, Mary. I appreciate that. They also want to increase the active participation of students of color in leadership opportunities. So that doesn't seem racist, does it? Center student voices in the district's decision-making process. So they have centering student voices is a Marxist, it's Paulo Freire again. If you guys haven't listened to James Lindsay's work on this, you need to. James Lindsay has done wonderful work on James Lindsay does great work anyway, but he's done really good work on explaining where this comes from. Increased opportunities, increase, typo. Increase opportunities for students to identify and work on racial equity issues impacting their educational experiences with district leadership. Recruiting and hiring, incorporate racial equity and social justice expectations into all job descriptions. All job descriptions. Increase the demographic diversity of the workforce. Increase the number of people of color and women in the construction and technical trades. All right, that's an interesting goal, whatever. Retention, develop an incentive system to increase, check this out. Retention, this is interesting. I wonder what they're doing here. Retention is about keeping employees once they're already on staff. Okay, so you've got hiring, which is you're bringing new employees on. Retention is about you're keeping the employees that you already have. And why I think that that's an important distinction to make is they're saying in their retention plan, develop an incentive system to increase racial equity and social justice capacity of Portland Public Schools workforce. They're talking about paying people based on their race. If we're talking about a retention strategy, they are talking about giving people raises to keep them happy based on their race. I'm going to bet that's what that means. I could be wrong. I'm giving you guys best guesses and opinions here, but that shouldn't be under the retention category. If that was about leveling things out and making them equitable, it would be under professional development or workforce development. It wouldn't be under the retention category. Retention is very specific. Increase employee retention for people of color. Why don't they care about employee retention for everyone? Professional development, develop the art. So this would be another thing I would look into. Develop the racial equity, social justice, professional development scope and sequence to support development for all employees. So every single employee of the Portland Public Schools is going to be getting woke training, which I know that none of us are surprised. Community engagement, partnerships. Partnerships is always something you want to look into when you're doing this type of research. They've got their definitions again. Oh, look, they even define intersectionality right in their documents. They define it. Why does Portland Public Schools lead with equity? Portland Public Schools leads with race, with the recognition that the creation and perpetuation of racial inequities have been baked into educational institutions and that racial inequities across all indicators for education success are deep and pervasive. We have to design our work to have a focus on race because we lead with race to ensure we are capturing students of color. Defaulting to regular practices without an articulation of racial inequities leaves students of color behind. Well, they aren't providing any evidence of that. Leading with race is grounded in a strategy of targeted universalism. This is the first time I've ever heard this term. Targeted universalism. Here with that? Which is a powerful way to make the transformational changes we need. Changes we need to improve life changes, promote inclusion, and enhance sustainable blah, blah, blah. All right, that's the end of that PDF. They've got their plan development. They've got their policy documents. Let's take a look at professional development and learning. In alignment with the Racial Equity and Social Justice Framework and Plan, the PPS Strategic Plan, Forward Together. The Racial Equity and Social Justice team is collaborating across departments at PPS to design and implement a full scope and sequence of professional learning to increase every PPS employee's skills and application in diversity, equity, and inclusion. Under Theme 1, Racial Equity and Social Justice, cultivate a culture of racial equity and care. Goal number 1 states develop and implement racial equity and social justice professional learnings and school site supports aligned with the framework and the professional learning master plan. All right, I want to know what the training is. Oh, look, how nice of them. Professional development training series. Do you guys see the rabbit hole that you go down with this stuff? It's ridiculous. Oh, well, that's showing you my email address, which I don't really like, but okay. One of many email addresses that I have. One of many. All right, let's look at this document. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to fucking download this right this second. How can I download it? Huh, this is weird. I wonder if she's going to get some sort of like notification. Can I download this? For real, can I download this? Are they preventing me from download? Open in desktop app. Yes. Yes, open in desktop app. Hang on. Open it, mother effers. Yes, continue. Desktop app, save as. Oh, fine, put it there. I don't really care. Bing. I got their document. Download everything, guys, especially when you're seeing stuff like this. Like, download everything because you never know when they're going to take it off of the website. In early 2019, Portland Public Schools adopted the Professional Development Plan, blah, blah, blah. Their cohorts, so they're running everyone through this plan. I want to know what you're teaching. Oh, check this out. Okay. This is where we're really getting into the rabbit hole of trying to figure out what's going on. Because what this document has done is basically link off to their professional development training providers. So the Center for Equity and Inclusion. Center for Equity and Inclusion is a specialized consulting agency focused on advancing equity, diversity, and inclusion efforts within organizations, educational systems, and communities. It was born out of the increasing racial and economic disparities experienced by our communities. Let's look at that website. So now we're about to look at a consulting company that is not only doing training in the Portland Public Schools, but also probably in other schools. They're in Portland, okay. Clients. We support the Black Lives Matter movement. Oh, good. Portland Trailblazers, PG&E, Feeding America. I don't know what that P is. Portland Trailblazers. Why are the Portland Trailblazers hiring an organization like this? What are some of the examples of their work? I want to see examples of your work. What we do. Oh, bot! Bot for the win. I found Portland Public Schools teacher contract. Thank you, bot. Well done. Guys, if you're having fun investigating the Portland Public Schools, please mount that like button for me. We're going to be doing a lot more streams like this. I think it's important to do streams like this because I want to teach you how to do this for your own schools. All right. DEI, capacity building and strategy, an equity certificate. Oh, look at that. Looks like they're teaching kids. Let's see. Reframing racism. Language tools for equity. Oh, look at this shit. They've got a whole fucking course sequence. They've got a whole fucking course sequence. Radical Raccoon, Illinois is crazy. Like, I guarantee you, Radical Raccoon, anything that you can provide me, email it to activelyunwoke@gmail.com. From a personal email address that is not linked to anything related to your email address in the school district. And like, I guarantee you, Illinois is going to be crazy. Illinois is one of the more crazy states. And the reason that is because the State Board of Education in Illinois is crazy and they built it into the teacher licensure standards. What is this? Reframing racism. Explore race, how race was constructed. Can I register for these? September 20th. Are these in person? In person. Oh, $600. I'm not paying $600 for this shit. Let's see. I would like... I guess they don't do online training. That's disappointing. I want to see them do online training. Maybe I should. Would you guys pay for me to... Would you guys help me crowdfund to go to Portland to go to this teacher equity thing? I would go undercover. I would totally dress like Antifa. This is a horrible idea, by the way. This is a really bad idea. We're not going to do this. I'm never going to Portland, Oregon ever again. But if someone in Portland wanted to go and just get some intel for us, it might not be a bad activity. Let's look at their Instagram. No, I've got another crowdfunding thing I'm going to need you guys for. I actually do legitimately have a crowdfunding thing I'm hoping to launch this week. So I've got another thing I want to crowdfund for. What does their Instagram account look like? Reframing Racism Workshop. Systemic Racism Explained. All right. Nothing crazy. Nothing too crazy. So we know they're using this company for their professional development training. I guess so. One of the things that we would probably have to do is we would probably have to FOIA what they're training their teachers with, because we can get access to all this information. We're just going to have to pay for it. I want to look up Jessica real quick. Hang on. I want to look up Jessica. Oh! Jessica is a critical race studies teacher. She worked at WNYC. No, she doesn't work there. She appeared in a... Okay, so this is the person that's leading the training for Portland Public Schools. She appears in the following: Critical Race Theory in Schools. We re-air our conversation with Jessica, the Director of Educational Equity at the Center for Equity and Inclusion in Portland, on teaching critical race theory in the fucking public schools. But I thought critical race theory wasn't taught in K through 12 schools. So, check this out. The woman that is responsible... Where did we see her? Right here, right here. The woman listed in the Portland Public Schools as being the Director for Educational Equity got interviewed. Oh, look at her. Oh, that's nice. She looks exactly like I would expect her to. She got interviewed by WNYC about critical race theory being taught in schools. Critical race studies teacher, Jessica, departed Lincoln in August to take a new position as the Director of Educational Equity at the Center for Equity and Inclusion. In her new position, she is responsible for managing the contract between them and the Portland Public Schools. She is a literal critical race studies teacher that is managing the contract. Don't ever let them tell you that critical race theory is not taught in public schools. They are all effing liars. All liars. And now we know that for sure. Fun times, fun times. Well, let me see. I want to do a little bit more jiggering around this website. I know we already have like 8,000 tabs open. What else should we look at on this website? Let me look at their Twitter and their Facebook. Let's look at their Twitter. So I would absolutely look at what their budget is. I want to see if they're budgeting things based on equity, which they very well might be. Bot says, as far as I can tell, they don't hire or fire staff based on race in the contract. It's 77 pages, though I may not be doing the right searches. Bot, have you looked for equity? So guys, this is not hard what we're doing right now. It's not hard to do this type of work and to look into the schools. It just takes time and focused energy because we've already uncovered a lot of different roads that we can go down based off of this. And we've been doing this for about an hour right now. And so what I want you guys to really understand is that anyone can do this. Anyone is capable of doing this. Budget. Okay, so Forward Together is their teacher training thing so this is their teacher training thing. For our most vulnerable children, their chance at thriving is deeply connected to our leadership. I would want to see what their teachers are being trained on. Forward Together and leading for equity hashtag. Let's look at this Forward Together hashtag. Wouldn't it be funny to find out that, well, I wouldn't be blocked on this account. I would be blocked on my main account. This is going to have some, we're going to get forward party in this. F that. Yes, bot found it in the fucking teacher contract. In the teacher contract. Yes, they do pay teachers more if they're trained in college on equity. Portland Public Schools is paying teachers more if they took equity courses in college. Crazy. All right, so we know they're doing stuff there. What else should we look at? What else should we look at? What's going to be the most helpful to us at this juncture? I want to look at Dana's social media. Is Dana on Twitter? Or Danny. Sorry, Danny, not Dana. Danny. Danny's on TikTok. Oh, she's private. Can someone please follow? If you're on TikTok, and none of you should be on TikTok. If you're on TikTok, please request to follow that person and to see what happens. I want to see her TikTok. Oh, found her Twitter. We found her Twitter. Oh, there she is. Let's see what Danny's doing on Twitter. I'm so inspired. Thrilled to see the teachers learning about racism. Bot says there are over 1,000 matches for the word equity in their budget. So that's important to know. The Portland School District is, the Portland Public Schools are literally budgeting based on equity. So that's nice. That's probably why they cost so much per pupil. Okay, so here's something we need to know. Summer fun at our summer enrichment partner, self-enhancement programming. What is this about? Self-enhancement. Now that sounds nice, right? What do they do? SEI guides students through school journey. What do they do? Let's look at their website. Yes, I would like to learn more about what you do. No, I don't want to. About mission. This doesn't look bad. This actually really doesn't look bad, to be honest. So we need to also be honest about this. When we're doing this type of like investigation into the schools, we cannot make the assumption that absolutely everything they are doing is bad. This is really important because not everything they're doing is going to be bad. Some of it might be completely reasonable, and that's totally okay. I don't see anything off the top that leads me to believe that this is bad. Let me look at their Instagram. It looks like they're doing like summer camps and stuff like that. Isn't it funny that even like in BIPOC job fair, but that's not inherently bad in and of itself. I don't think that what they're doing is that bad. Okay, so bot update. They have a whole plan for racial equity for 2021 through 2025. Okay, so we're going to want to look at that. They want to transform structures. That's nice. We would definitely want to look at that. Let's go back to Danny's social media. She's giving us the names of staff members, which is good. Those are all things we can look into. Oh, look at that. Look at that. I am so inspired by the programming at our summer enrichment partner, I Am More. The program activities are responsive to students' needs for culturally specific academic and social emotional supports. Okay, social emotional learning. That's transing the kids. We are so fortunate to have Dr. Renee Mitchell in our community. What do we have right here? We've got Nicole Hannah-Jones in the 1619 project. 1619 projects being taught in Portland Public Schools. Congrats. I think we already knew that, though. So essentially what we're finding is that Danny on her Twitter is giving us a lot of information about what they're doing specifically to integrate equity into the different curriculum, what they're doing to train staff, what they're doing with students. This Twitter account, there's not a whole lot that's like uber cringe that I could say, look at this crazy tweet from this crazy educator lady. But what we can do is mine this Twitter account to go down different rabbit holes to like look into different things. So there's actually a lot there. Let's see. What else do we want to look into? I would like to go back to their YouTube channel, I think. Let me see. PPS Communications. We'll look up a race on their YouTube channel. We got that critical race theory summit that we already watched. Oh, look at this. No place for hate, peer facilitators, community conversation about race. What is this about? What is this about? Hang on. Let me put this in a different browser so we can all hear. Oh, shoot. Hang on. I want you guys to actually be able to hear this. This might just be the jackpot, guys. In fact, I'm going to preemptively download this right now. We can't watch the whole thing, but I just want to take a quick gander through this video. Okay, so this is on the Portland Public Schools YouTube channel. It was posted on that YouTube channel in February of 2021, so it's about a year and a half old. No place for hate, peer facilitators, community conversation about race. Let's just watch just a little bit of it.
Welcome, students, families, educators, community members, district leaders,
Actually,
city.
it's got the description. Let's see. Oh, they can take a pledge. Okay, well, let's watch.
And state officials. My name is Filip Hristic, and I'm the proud principal of Ida B. Wells High School here in Portland. Thank you for joining us.
No, we're not doing a
this
full
evening
happy hour.
for
We're
this
just going to watch a little
important
bit. Just a
community
little bit, just a
conversation
snippet.
about
Because I got
race.
the community Zoom at 7.
We're going to start tonight's event with a land acknowledgement. As many of you know, a land acknowledgement is a powerful way of showing respect and is a step towards correcting the stories and practices that erase Indigenous people's history and culture. I want to thank one of our parents and site council members, Alex Hagan, who is also a teacher at Astor Elementary School, along with the assistant principal, Dr. Keilani Haupu, for sharing this land acknowledgement with us. One of our students, Janelle, who is a junior at Ida B. Wells, will be reading the land acknowledgement this evening.
So actually,
Janelle?
I want to just point this out in the chat. Andrew's making a great point. If they have a transcript, bring it up and do a word search. Andrew, where would I find if they have a show transcript? Holy shit. How do I do a word search in the transcript? How do I do a word search, Andrew? Help me. Help me, please. Hang on. Control, but how, but it's not going to show in here, like, oh, I guess, oh, fuck it will. You're right. Andrew for the win. Okay, so let's see. Race. Discussions about race. Oh, this is going to be total happy hour material. I'll tell you that right now. This is going to be 100% happy hour material. Equity. Support equity move. Especially when they're not trendy. None of this is to say buying lost signs, t-shirts, or posting on social media to support equity moves is inherently bad as long as the profits and products you go directly to those movements. Okay. Yeah, okay. There's going to be some goodies in this. Let's just watch a little bit.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Janelle, and I'm a junior at Ida B. Wells Barnett High School.
Oh, good.
Today, we acknowledge the fact that the Portland metro area sits atop the ancestral lands of the Multnomah, Wasco, Cowlitz, Cathlamet, Clackamas, Chinook, Tualatin, Kalapuya, Molalla, and many other tribes and bands who made their homes along the Columbia and Willamette rivers. Some of these indigenous peoples signed the Willamette Valley Treaty of 1855, only to be forcibly removed from their homelands to reservations. Many of these tribes' descendants live today as members of the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde, the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs, the Confederated Tribes of the Siletz Indians, and the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation. We honestly recognize this history and invite all to join us with an openness and desire to understand Native American issues, past and present.
So the reason, I just want to be clear about this. So
Hi everyone, I'm Aisha.
The reason that we are watching this is because anytime, if you come across a school that is putting students on their YouTube channel, you watch every single second of those videos. Because anytime, I have a 100% hit rate with this. Anytime I find any school that is putting students on the internet, there is going to be some crazy shit in that presentation. Every time. So you make sure, I don't care how boring it is. I don't care how long it takes you. If you have to do it piecemeal, like a little bit of a time, and then you come back to it, you watch every single second of the videos with the students in them, because you will find lunacy in it at some point.
Aisha Conning, one of the vice principals at Ida B. Wells High School. One tip for our audience tonight before we move forward, we encourage audience members to click view and select speaker view in their Zoom settings, please, so that you can see the primary person speaking and presenting throughout the evening. Tonight, we are centering our students' voices, supported by our keynote speaker, Scotty Nash, the Executive Director of Education for the Anti-Defamation League Pacific Northwest.
Anti-Defamation League,
who has
great.
been working with our students over the past year. There are many, many folks behind the scenes that are helping to facilitate this virtual event tonight and played a foundational role in making it happen. Thank you, of course, our principal, Philippe Ristich, business manager here at Ida B. Wells, Erica Caldwell, our media specialist, Cassie Lanzis, community activist, organizer, and ally, Holly Pruitt, our school webmaster, Leanne Van Horn.
This is giving you a
PPS
staff list
Community
to look
and
through.
Public Affairs Manager, Terry Proctor, Robert Gray Middle School Principal, Lisa Newland, and Assistant Principal, Jeffrey Waters.
She just gave us a lot of staff.
Organizations
lot
that
of
made
staff
tonight
names to look
possible.
into.
The Jewish Federation of Greater Portland, and of course, the Anti-Defamation League's No Place for Hate Peer Facilitator Program. We also want to thank our Ida B. Wells High School teaching and counseling staff, many of whom encourage students to attend the event and are attending themselves tonight. Finally, we want to acknowledge the elected officials in our audience. Portland
Elected
City Commissioner
officials.
Joanne Hardesty,
Elected officials in their
Multnomah County
audience.
Commissioner Sharon Myron, and Portland School Board member Scott Bailey. We are also very appreciative that our district superintendent Guadalupe Guerrero and officials from the State Department of Education are in attendance. Thank you to all
And the
of
State
these
Department of
individuals who
Education too.
believe
That tells you something
racial
as well.
equity work is foundational in creating a more just, compassionate, and equitable community and world. A few logistics before we kick off the event. The event is being recorded.
And we are going to
Audience
display our
cameras
students
and
on the YouTube
microphones
channel.
are turned off. Here's what to expect during tonight's program. Introductions from our No Place for Hate peer facilitators. What students are learning about how to be an ally.
Oh, good.
How to have family conversations about
Bro.
racial equity and social justice presented by Scotty Nash, the Executive Director of Education from ADL. We'll pause for a brief intermission, during which time we're going to ask that you take a pledge. Principal Lisa Newland will share more about that.
Nothing indoctrinating
Followed
about
by
a pledge.
Call to action for specific racial equity and social justice topics by our students. Our students have a lot to say and offer, so be prepared for some active listening tonight.
Yes.
We'll close with a panel, a live panel of students responding to your questions, and we'll adjourn by 8. We'll remind you later, but during the panel, you can use the Q&A button on your Zoom screen to submit questions to our moderator.
I
which
promise
will be
you
me,
this
Aisha
video is going to
Conning,
be a
at any
shit
time.
show.
At the end of our program, we will share.
So here's what we're going to do, guys. Here's what we're going to do. I am positive beyond positive that this video is going to be an absolute shit show. The problem is that I have a community Zoom call starting in half an hour. And I would not abandon my locals community just to watch a crazy video. So here is what we are going to do. We're going to put a pin in that one. and we're going to watch it tomorrow. We are going to watch that video tomorrow. I may start a little bit early. I may start around like 4 or something like that, because it seems like this video, we're going to need to take our time with it. They're going to have a lot of students. We're going to have a lot of students in that video. And anytime you have students in that video, they're going to be saying crazy shit. So we are going to watch the video together tomorrow on the stream. I will be updating people about what time the stream will start. You can join my locals, kb.locals.com. The link is in the description if you would like to keep updated on when I'm going to do the stream. You can also follow my, obviously not my Twitter account, because I'm permanently banned on Twitter for reporting a school for breaking state law against teaching critical race theory. But if you want to follow an account for the most amazing book about fighting back against the woke left ever written, and it's just an account for a book. That's all it is. You know, the account identifies as a book. You can follow at Actively Unwoke on Twitter. You can also follow, there are all sorts of links, I think, in the description down there somewhere. And I'll, of course, be announcing when we're going to do the stream tomorrow. Guys, please mount that like button if you haven't already, if you enjoyed our little investigation that we did today. I think we uncovered a lot of stuff. Even within do you guys see how much you can uncover in an hour and a half? A focused effort. We've already got a lot to work with when it comes to the Portland public schools. And so this might be something that we can continue. If we can make it a group activity, like Bot was getting involved, found a lot of great stuff. The more people that we have interacting on these things, the better. And this is the type of environment that I am working very, very hard to create as a part of the Unwoke Army. So if you've not yet heard of the Unwoke Army, head over to unwokearmy.com. We are having a webinar on Wednesday in which I'm going to explain my vision for the Unwoke Army, and I'm going to let you guys know how you can get involved and join us and do this type of investigative work and expose the schools for exactly and precisely what they're doing. Please sign up for this free webinar I have on Wednesday. If you are not available at 8 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday, that's okay. Please sign up for it anyway. And you will get a recording as soon as it's done and the recording is processed that you can watch when you have time. And this is going to tell you the steps you're going to need to go through in order to join my Unwoke Army and to be able to do investigative work with us on the different projects that we're working on, to include the Schools Exposed project, which is exactly what we're doing right now. This stuff isn't the fun stuff. It's not the flashy stuff. But I'll tell you what, this is the stuff that people actually need to know about. And I want to not only show you guys how to do it and get you involved in doing this stuff for the Unwoke Army. The reason that I want to do streams like this is to show parents how to find this information on any school website right now. What I'm doing is nothing special. I'm just focusing energy and attention on finding the information. I know how to look for it because I've been doing it for a minute now, and I want to teach you how to do it. If you would like to support the work I'm doing, the very best place to do that is by heading over to activelyunwoke.com and clicking that support button. And you're going to get lots of options, whether it be Patreon or joining my locals or subscribing on Substack. Now, in about 25 minutes, I'm going to be starting a call in my locals community, our locals community Zoom call. So if you would like to join that, head over to kb.locals.com/support. Let me put the link in the chat here. And you can sign up for $5 a month. You can also sign up for $50 a year. You can also make a one-time gift. If you are a supporter on Patreon, you will also get access to the community Zoom calls. But I know the vast majority of people on these calls are members of the locals community. Either is fine. It's up to you. And either goes to support the work I'm doing. So I really do appreciate it. And we're going to have a great call tonight at 7 p.m. So we'll see my locals peeps in about 25 minutes. But I'm going to go take a little bit of a break. But definitely return tomorrow, where we have already got our stream planned. We're going to do basically a midweek Tuesday happy hour, and we're going to watch that crazy webinar from the Portland Public Schools, and we're going to make some clips. Fun stuff, guys. All right, that's all I have for this time around. I will see you guys tomorrow. Take care. Have a great rest of your day, and we will see you soon.